It's been a busy couple of weeks with some mega hits being released, so you might have missed these updates and releases, including the return of the Beheaded, Cozy Games, Mac Games, and even a Metroidvania. So let's begin with Golden Idol Investigations, The Curse of the Last Reaper, a standalone DLC to The Rise of the Golden Idol, an impressive detective adventure game built on the success of their previous game, The Case of the Golden Idol. This DLC is pirate-themed, set on board a ship named the Last Reaper in 1797, but then time fast forwards to 1927 with 4 new scenarios, a treasure map, and more, and will be for fans of the genre. LOOTPLOT is just a fun term to say, and it's a points-based roguelite where you build an inventory of items, rearrange them, slot them into spaces, bend the rules, and break the game, watching your score climb to insane numbers, and is somewhere in the same space as Belatro. You begin with a basic board with empty slots and starter items, then buy or unlock over 300 unique items of varying rarities, creating powerful point-boosting synergies between them, not really having a story, but literally is a numbers go up kind of game with great pixel art as well. This video is brought to you by Space Chef, a zany cooking adventure game where you take on the role of an aspiring chef in the Horseshoe Nebula, starting from a simple space trailer and grandma's old cookbook and growing to become the galaxy's greatest chef. This is one part restaurant manager, one part light survival RPG, and one part live sim, mixing and matching gameplay elements and concepts from these genres into quite the compelling experience. Explore alien planets filled with odd ingredients and wildlife, harvest weird flora and fauna, some of which might try to eat you first, then return to your kitchen and prepare over 140 unique dishes using these exotic raw materials. Customize your restaurant's interior, select decorations like wallpaper or flooring, as well as the layout of tables and chairs, optimizing it for efficiency while making it aesthetically pleasing. The life sim elements come from the cast of quirky characters from a scrap dealer, a definitely not alien bartender, and more, some of which can be romanced and will have a main story about taking on the big bad galactic burger as they try to muscle in on your territory, looking like a wonderful mix of ideas. If interested, this is out right now on Steam, PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and Switch, so you can buy it today. If you love automation factory builders, Color Factory Automation Meets Canvas might be of interest, in which you are using primary colors to create beautiful works of art, but of course have to mix, match, and refine them into vivid shades to get the outcome you want. Generate new hues of color and use belts, tunnels, splitters, and mergers to get them to the canvas and watch your machines go as they feed into the final piece of art. You will get access to more complex nodes and pieces to fit into your factory, ones which can rotate and modify the colors, resulting in a complex looking factory, with the end product being a piece of art, which is kind of whimsical, but it's a relatively low stakes kind of game since there is no cost for any of the items and no enemies to deal with, and might be a good introduction to the genre. We also had the 1.0 release of Greedland, a top-down bullet heaven roguelite where you move through intense arenas, blasting hordes of enemies, equipping power armors, and deploying devastating weapons to dominate the battlefield. Choose from a roster of playable characters, each with unique skills, gathering currency and upgrades during a run, leveling up your gear, unlocking new armor sets, and acquiring equipment or chips that radically change your build. There are multiple biomes and dozens of missions to go on, also having 2-player co-op, and is fun in the same way that Survivors style games are. Giant mechs are always fun, so indie developers add those into your game where it makes sense, being a good one of these if you're in the mood. Cozy Island is a very charming, relaxing, open-world adventure game in which you are wandering around a surprise-filled island, meeting friendly animals, playing fun minigames, collecting toys and furniture, and can even build your own secret base, either solo or with friends, so what's not to love? The art style is super cute, and you can interact with various objects and items in the game, using your arms to pull, push, and grab items, carrying them around to complete quests and to help others. there are light farming elements, such as growing crops and watering them, which you can eventually harvest when ready, along with fishing, foraging, and building out your base. Dig for treasure, ride a bike, sit on a rocking horse, tug at an earthworm, play soccer, and much more, looking nonsensical in a great way and looks fun to mess around in. Another roguelite deck builder of interest is Rana Card, an entry in the symbol builder deck builder space which has you as a farm manager under the constant pressure from corporate to meet KPI targets. You draw cards ranging from spells, plants, animals, buildings, and products, and have to decide how many cards you want to play, each with their own time cost, where you need to manage the limited time cap, where exceeding this will trigger a time explosion, which is not always a bad thing and can become an advantage instead. Of course, the screen will absolutely explode in coins and numbers all over the place, which is the main appeal of such games, as you attempt to meet ever-increasing scores. Between runs, unlock over 300 unique cards and more than 200 trinkets, allowing for a variety of builds. Also having to deal with branching events and weather cataclysms that majorly affect the output of your farm, being an interestingly themed title which is worth a look. Another 1.0 release is the minimalist Deadeye Deepfake Simulacrum, which is actually a cyberpunk top-down action title which you might not get at first glance, in which you play as an elite corporate agent with the freedom to bend bullets, hack minds, and manipulate time to accomplish your missions. This has drawn comparisons to Hotline Miami insofar as it is level-based with top-down action, but you are not all that good at shooting unless you specialize in it, having to think creatively about how you want to approach various scenarios to deal with enemies, and seems to have some immersive sim DNA as well. The skills and abilities are the main highlight, where you can effectively become different classes which are very varied, including a Necromancer, Knight, Chronomancer, Pyrokinetic, Esper, Empath, and more, offering much more than meets the eye. The UI is kind of insane as well, covering easily a third of the screen at the time, and while it looks abstract, there's certainly something to this game which might fit the bill for a hidden gem. I never like it when developers surprise drop their games, especially smaller teams, since there needs to be sufficient time to advertise and market their launch, so here we are with the good old days, a nostalgic exploration-based Metroidvania that is quite different from what you might expect. Set in the rural town of Arostia during the year 19XX, you play as a young boy named Sean who goes home one day only to find a loan shark demanding repayment of his missing father's debt. By the end of the day, no less, and you have to find a way to pay it off. Perhaps most randomly, his 3 friends are trapped underground as well, so he needs to rescue them, conveniently taking the opportunity to find ways to earn money in the process. Navigate the interconnected underground map, jumping, climbing, and exploring to discover hidden money, secret paths, and optional trial stages, with the choice to avoid conflict entirely, but thus still have that if you so choose. Unlock and freely switch between the 4 characters, each with their own abilities, such as smashing through walls, running fast and rolling, or jumping high, using these to get to the next area. There appears to be a ton of variety in the gameplay, which includes mini-games and side missions, but you do have to be aware of the timer that counts down, since that is the debt repayment deadline. I love the character designs here, reminding me, of course, of Earthbound, or more accurately, this game actually reminds me of La Mulana, also coming to us from a Japanese developer, and offers something different as compared to the Hollow Knight clones of the world. Also, you are encouraged to beat the game multiple times, since each playthrough reveals more about the game, essentially having built-in New Game Plus with consequences and is going under the radar. Another 1.0 release is Dragon Song Tavern Cozy and Adventurous, a simulation RPG where you take over a seaside tavern on a forgotten island, discover a baby dragon hiding in the cellar, and build a cozy life filled with exploration, crafting, and companionship. You plant crops and do farming game stuff, fish by the shores, and adventure in the wilderness to gather rare herbs and magical ingredients, then bring these back to your tavern to brew fine drinks, craft artisanal goods, and design menus that attract guests and fellow adventurers. You also hire staff, customize your character's appearance and tavern decor, running a thriving business in addition to the life sim elements. Set sail from the dock to explore uncharted lands and discover rare treasures, learning more about the world and its legends. This does have combat and exploration, where you venture into battles and take on various creatures, gaining rare resources along the way. It does have co-op support, so you can play with a friend, working together to run the tavern or to tend to your farm, and is quite light-hearted and cooperative. There are some quirks about the game, especially with how the in-game calendar works, and you might find yourself racing around and just going to bed to advance time to trigger the next event, so some rough edges I suppose, but it's cozy and cute enough to warrant a mention. Monster Care Simulator also released out of early access and is a cozy first-person simulation game where you essentially operate a Pokemon Center only without a magic healing machine and must tend to the creatures by hand, welcome unique creatures from clients and tend to them, treating their ailments and nursing them back to health. Beyond the curing portion, there's also grooming services as you get these creatures back into tip-top condition, upgrading your facility along the way to provide better services, growing your reputation and attracting new customers in the process. You can also find and hatch rare eggs, raise monsters of your own, while still doing the day-to-day stuff like cleaning up, playing with the creatures, and soothing their stress. You have your own personal apartment upstairs to decorate and relax in, and can eventually hire staff to help in running the day-to-day operations. Still, it's super cute, and I always love monster taming games, so unleash your inner nurse joy in this wonderfully cozy experience. Roguelite slot machine titles are really coming into their own, with another entry of note being Slots and Daggers, one that fuses the mechanics of a slot machine with old-school dungeon crawling in a fantasy setting. Spin the reels to see what symbols come up, which then affects the effectiveness of your next attack, with various other symbols and multipliers to wrap your head around as you craft a build taking probability into account. Defeat enemies and gain coins, which are then used to purchase more symbols, with mechanics like critical hits and upgrades, which increases the number of reels. The pixel art is simple but effective, but more importantly, the game feel of this title is awesome, from sound effects to animations, so for any indie developer looking to make a smaller title, I would definitely recommend giving this a go. Behaviour Interactive of Dead by Daylight fame seems to be venturing into publishing and did pick up It Has My Face, a first-person horror roguelite that is essentially a 1v1 hide-and-seek game. You are wandering through a dystopian environment packed with huge crowds of people, having to find your evil clone with the same face as you and to kill it before it kills you. That means paying attention to all the characters while trying not to be too paranoid that they will get you from behind. The environments can feel claustrophobic due to the sheer number of characters, and your eyes will be darting around all the time until you find your target. You do have to scavenge for weapons and manage the limited amount of ammo, survival horror game style, with a tease of flashy abominations as well, and is more than meets the eye. There are permanent upgrades between playthroughs, and if it gets too repetitive, there is a 1v1 PvP mode as well, so you can mess around with your friend. Definitely having an interesting idea, so I wonder how this will evolve in early access. Another 1.0 release of interest is Mass Builder, a mech action RPG where you pilot a fully customizable mechanical assault skeleton suit, or MASS, as the commander of a private military company charged with battling an alien threat known as the Quarks. Select from hundreds of different parts for your mech, including everything from limbs to armor plates to boosters and weapons, where you can configure 38 points on the mech itself, which is a lot, resulting in a near infinite number of possible combinations, then layer on cosmetic skins, allowing you to build the mech of your dreams with their powerful editor, and then you can take it into combat to test its abilities. Mech action titles always appeal to me, since it just seems awesome to be piloting a giant robot and to use it to battle even more titanic enemies, having similarities to Gundam games, but of course with your own creation. Fly into combat zones and use both range and melee weapons to attack, with shields or thrusters adding more to the strategy. There is a story and lore to immerse yourself in, But honestly, this is a gunpla game at its core, with the designing portion being its stronger suit. One of the biggest roguelites chugging along is BlazBlue Entropy Effect, where Arc System Works' IP was loaned out to Chinese developer 91 Act, and they are absolutely crushing it with over 33,000 Steam reviews as of the time of recording. So it would probably not be a surprise that they decided to cross over with Dead Cells, perhaps the frontrunner in the action roguelite platformer space at the moment. This adds the prisoner as a playable character, building 27 signature weapons, skills and mutations from BBEE, but also 20 plus combo variants that have a little bit of that Dead Cells juice in them. A new challenge biome has been added as well, whose lore is tied into BlazBlue and has nothing to do with Dead Cells, so it's a curiosity for sure. The sleek animations and over-the-top attacks makes a comeback even while using the prisoner, continuing to look fantastic, where it's always interesting to see established IPs trust their property to another developer and to see what comes out the other end. A number of you did tell me about this in the comments, so in case you missed the news, the demo for Alabaster Dawn is available right now, being of interest since this is the follow-up to Crosscode, one of the most beloved action-adventure RPGs, where the developers seem to be making yet another one of these, but in a different world. You awaken in a world ravaged by the shadow of Nyx, turning it into a wasteland, so you, the outcast chosen, have the impossible task of bringing the people and the missing gods back. The demo version will include the actual first part of the game, where saves here will be compatible with the full release, and the second part skips ahead, allowing you to explore parts of a dungeon, having 2 melee and 2 ranged weapons, 9 enemy types and 4 bosses, taking about 2.5 hours to complete, where it's already insanely hyped for good reason to give this a try for yourself. Watch this video for more of the best indie games.